China is front and center in the news as they have begun selling off billions of debt, primarily US. A deep concern grows as this continues on, while those in the financial media whitewash the story. The possibility of this continuing for the foreseeable future is apparent, dangerous, and must be analyzed. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's get into this today, talk about it very briefly. I want to make this a very quick video. Let's begin with the top story. China is burning through its huge stockpile of foreign exchange reserves at the fastest pace yet, as it seeks to prop up its currency and stem a rising tide of money flowing out of the country. For those who haven't been made aware of what's happening here, we have seen fluctuations in the stock market in China. Of course, that affects the whole world. Obviously, commodities are affected by this as well. So what are the options? Well, of course, the government has to intervene. Now, this is not one video that I want to get into detail, so I'll just cover a couple more points and move on. Even after a record monthly decrease of nearly $100 billion, China still has the world's cash of the biggest foreign reserves, standing at $3.56 trillion at the end of last month. So remember, when you think about this here, we're talking trillions of dollars still sitting there. So it's not as if this is just going to be burned over in a second. So don't think that things could change literally overnight. The total has declined steadily from a peak of nearly $4 trillion in June last year. Slowing economic growth caused investors to move money out of the country in search for better returns elsewhere. As a result, the Chinese central bank sell huge amounts of its foreign reserves to maintain the strength of the currency. So what we have here is Chinese individuals basically taking their money, moving it out, and purchasing things like real estate in cities around the world. Major changes have occurred. Let's move on as we look at China's Forex reserves. So you can see the graphical display of that there. Obviously came up over the last few years, and really it has been fluctuating. If you were to zoom out on this graph, you would see a lot of changes occurring. When they need to, they simply sell off. The US mainstream media, let's call it, isn't really concerned apparently, but if this is a trend that continues on, then we're going to have major problems. I'm not saying that it necessarily will. I'm just suggesting that it perhaps will continue on. China and their media agency there said that they approved 77 billion yuan in road bridge investments. So this is public works projects. Whenever you have a problem, you always do two things. You engage in QE and you set up public works projects. This is how you get the economy going. Now, I would definitely prefer, I had to pick, that the public works projects are better than the QE, because at least it does something. At least there's actually something being done, whereas QE is simply a waste of all of that plus the added inflation afterwards. Let's move on to this as we look at the WTF moment in the Japan stock market. In literally milliseconds, the stock market goes up a considerable amount, and you have to think to yourself, what's going on here? This is not an individual that simply bought up some shares of the stock market, or a bunch of individuals, because it doesn't shoot up in milliseconds. This is computer algorithms that are controlling everything. We can't have this continue and there be any sort of sanity in the markets. This is what is being controlled. Everything we do in these the whole financial realm is all controlled by this, and it is very, very dangerous. Then I wanted to note two other articles here that it's not necessarily directly related, but it's very important. France is preparing for airstrikes in Syria as their president seeks ways to both stem a flood of refugees from the Middle East into Europe and grapple with the threat of terrorism. If this isn't fake, then this is probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. If you want people to stop fleeing their country, then you bomb it. It doesn't make a single ounce of sense if you look at it face on. But people, they just skim over it and they just think, okay, well, they're bombing Syria, no big deal. They have to. It's a war-torn country, a brutal leader, and so on. And they just bomb them. And the people don't care. They don't really understand how this affects them. You can't bomb a country and not expect to have a retaliation. It does not work. And this is what I love to read all the time, and that is the British monarchy is richer than ever as the Queen's reign reaches record. So you can see Satan herself down there, and you will note that they have continued to get richer. In this, they suggest that their estates and their land have increased in value, and therefore they are richer. Their money is definitely not held in things that we can see. It is in all kinds of different things. I'm sure they have all sorts of priceless artifacts. They have hundreds of palaces. They literally, each individual has hundreds of people working directly for them. You're talking about rich beyond rich. This is not Bill Gates and Warren Buffett rich. We're talking about things that we can't even imagine. So this is what happens when you have this great divide that occurs. The super rich, they get even richer, and the poor or the middle class simply get more poor. This is what's happening, the elimination of the middle class, and they're doing so using all of these schemes. This high frequency trading is a scheme to take our money away. It finds ways to basically, those elite, the Goldman Sachs, the JP Morgan, all of these investment companies get the profit from that, and we never do. And that's all I will say for this. I just want to note, if you appreciate these videos, if you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out very much. It also tells other YouTubers out there that this is a good video. It's very informative, and it brings it up higher in the YouTube ranking. So I do appreciate that very much. I appreciate all the comments, in fact. And right here is the Amazon. You can go over there. If you like the book, if you like the information, you'll like my book even more. And if you go over to Amazon.com, they have this look inside feature, which allows you to actually flip through the book and see if you like it for yourself. Take care.